This is Steve Martin, Masterclass, Lesson 20. This is a continuation of the last class, which was editing. Editing is so important to the whole process that it really is your second draft, third draft, fourth draft in some cases. You're constantly working on trying to hone it, try to make it as economical as possible, try to get as many ideas in the smallest amount of words, the smallest amount of actions as possible. That isn't that's really an important point because he mentions that dialogue isn't precious, and that's true. Something that's important to you is one thing, but I mean, if you're trying to get from point A to point B, you don't want to have 12 steps to get there. You want as few steps as possible to try to get as much impact as possible from the smallest amount of time. That goes with anything, really. If you're writing dialogue or if you're speaking to other people, that also is a good point. He talked again to the group. He went over one of the people's pieces that she wrote about the Titanic and about the bourgeoisie being in the Titanic and not realizing that the boat sank, that it was an odd grouping of circumstances that happened, and they didn't even realize the thing sank or anything like that. I understand the point that she was trying to make, and he honed it down a little bit, and he changed the order. Know what your beats are, and maybe what order they need to be in, but always be ready to change. Your beats may be like, I like to do everything in a linear fashion just because I'm not very good at it, and that's how I can keep up with it in my head. But if you have all the beats, if they go better in a different order, always be open to that. Always be willing to change that, because a lot of times what you think is right, again, it goes back to sitting on it. What you think is right is sometimes better done BCA instead of ABC. It's just something as simple as that. It doesn't mean that it's bad, doesn't mean that you did it wrong, it just means that it works better in another way. That's what goes back to the precious thing. None of this is precious. You just have to react. You have to edit in a way that makes it more interesting. You're addressing an audience. It goes back to having inside jokes and things of that nature too. It's cool to have all that stuff, but if the crowd doesn't know it, you're speaking to them. If they don't know it, they're gonna get lost. They're gonna lose interest. If they lose interest, then you lost the game. It's simple as that. A lot of times you start getting into having all of these ideas that have to be all this way, and then you end up not using it, or it's wrong, or the audience just doesn't respond, which is the worst. That's death. You don't want that. I don't have that luxury, but I mean, if you do, it's great. If you have somebody to just look over, because I do this every day, so I'm just constantly pumping out material. But if you have time, have somebody just look over it, gather it, give it to someone, and see if it makes sense to them. It's simple as that. If it really does, wow, then you're great. That you don't need to practice or anything. You're rare. You're one in a million. It doesn't work that way. If you have somebody to look over it, you have somebody to just take away all the things that are important to you, and whatever makes it important to the viewer is great. The audience is the editor too. In stand-up, or in a play, or something that's live, you're going to get instant feedback. So you say something and people laugh, then that's great. That's what you want. If you say something that's supposed to be a beat, that's a laugh, and nothing happens, you make a note that didn't work. Was it the timing? Was it the wording? Was it how fast or slow I said it? There's a lot of different things that go into it. The audience really gives you help with that. I don't have that really. I mean, feedback on YouTube is you suck, or why did you make this? This is terrible. That's not real good feedback. That's just you guys being a jerk. And if you guys are jerks, that's your problem, not mine, and that helps me. It doesn't help me at all. I just think, oh, that person's just a jerk and not worth my time. Move on. So having a live, this is one of those things where it doesn't work here on YouTube, because majority of the feedback on YouTube is negative, and it's notorious for that. People go out of their way to try to be negative on Facebook, on YouTube, or on Facebook for that matter, on YouTube, and rarely I've from a comment I've almost never gotten anything interesting from a comment ever. As far as something sort of a creative and sort of criticism, usually it's just like you suck, and I don't care what your opinion is if that's the case. But live feedback is really interesting. I've never done anything like that, but I've been in a crowd and I've laughed, and I know that, okay, well, this person said these jokes and those were funny. That wasn't that funny, so I didn't say anything. I mean, feedback is the way you get better, at least in a comedy sense. I can squawk into my camera all day, but if I don't have an audience to watch it, what does it matter? If I can write the best jokes in the world, or what I think are the best jokes in the world, and nobody laughs, I say it to an audience, or I don't have an audience to say it to, really. If I don't have an audience to say it to, then what does it matter? You have to have an audience for feedback, for everything, really. Whether it be at YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, your stand-up comic, your movie director, or anything in between. If you don't have that audience, then what's the whole point of any of this? Editing is really important, because usually it's your last draft, and that's what the audience sees. So you can always go back, and I guess I could always go back into my YouTube videos and redo them and put them out again, but what's the point? They've already been put out, the editing is done, but is it coherent? Is it something that people will watch, listen to, laugh in some cases, be interested in? That's the bottom line. So editing is, I understand why they made two sections of it. It's really important. So that was Steve Martin, class 20 of masterclass.com. So if you guys enjoy stuff like this, I have the whole playlist. I'll put up the playlist somewhere around here, and you guys can go back and watch all of them. And they're 25, and I'm up to 20 now, so not too many more to go. And you can just watch them all. Watch me drone into the camera, and maybe you guys have any feedback on it. Interesting feedback. No, you suck or anything like that. I don't care. You can put it down below, subscribe, like, and all that good stuff. Thanks for watching.